Hi, my name is Jade King, and today I'm going to be talking about the uncertainty reduction theory. So this theory was created in 1975 by Charles Berger, and basically it just explores the initial interaction between people that occurs before communication happens, basically, and it's also known as the initial interaction theory. And basically it just talks about what goes through people's minds before they meet people, how they get information on people, and how they interact with somebody for the first time. So basically, when Charles was thinking of this theory, he basically was just like, everyone starts off as strangers, no matter how long you've known somebody, no matter how few times you've talked to somebody, you at one point were strangers. And he says that it's natural to have doubts when you're first meeting somebody. So you are gonna have doubts because you don't know what people might say, how they are, what their like reason for talking to you is, stuff like that. So he said that it's natural to have doubts and you always start out as strangers. And he basically said that our purpose of talking to people is to make sense of our interpersonal world. So we want to talk to people to learn new information, to meet people, to build new relationships, and things like that. So there's three main points of the uncertainty theory by Charles Berger, and the first one is, well, there's three: passive, active, and interactive. And passive, okay, basically these three parts explain how you go about meeting somebody or learning somebody to reduce the uncertainty before you actually interact with them. So what you do to reduce your doubts of somebody before you meet them. So passive is like basically just observing from afar, watching people in their like natural environment, learning what they like to do, who they hang around, how they act when they're around certain people. And while you're in your passive stage of these three things, you basically don't want people to know that you're watching them, because it allows you to have some awareness of what you're doing to reduce your doubts that you do have. Then the active one, it's kind of like beating around the bush to get information about somebody, but basically you are getting information from somebody's friend or somebody who the person knows or has had a relationship with in the past, just to learn more about that person without you actually having to go up to the person. You also are in the active stage to reduce your doubts about somebody. And I think this is one that happens a lot with people, is you ask somebody else how somebody is to try to build your opinion around them. And I would say that even though it is a way to learn from people, you never know how that person who's telling you about the person you're trying to learn about ended their relationship, how they started their relationship, how their relationship is currently. So you could get some biased opinions, but I think that is a very common thing that people do when they're trying to reduce their doubts of somebody. And then the last one is interactive. So the interactive one is where you are having interactions with the person that you've been learning about. You are talking to them, learning about them, asking them questions, just basically reducing your doubts up front with no beating around the bush, basically. You aren't observing them from afar. You aren't asking people for information about them. This is you face to face, which I think is the most genuine part of these three. And I think that it's the best way to get to know somebody and reduce those doubts, because the more conversations you have with a person one-on-one, the realer they'll be, and you can learn so much more about somebody by interacting with them face-to-face than doing it through other people or just observing them from afar. So I really like the uncertainty reduction theory, and I think that we use it all the time. And I think it is really true that people do have doubts, and especially when you're meeting someone new that you've never met before, never heard of, stuff like that. And I think that this theory is very adaptable to people's everyday lives.